something you haven't done in the park, basically?
Hey guys, so I went to AOA while I was on vacation, and I was with one other Jeep. I found the person in the Roush Creek and AOAA Facebook group. So we went up and we did a bunch of trails. This happens to be one of them. This is the Barney Rubble Trail, and as I described in a earlier video when we did Barney Rubble, if you go along the left-hand side of the upper half of Barney Rubble, it's the easier side, and they call that Barney Rubble. And then there's like the trail splits kind of three ways. The center I think they kind of refer to as Pebbles, and the far right side I think they refer to as Bamm Bamm. And so we had decided, and you'll see up here where we get to the fork right now, we're at the base of it, where Twister comes down, and we decided to go up the center of it, which was like the medium difficulty. And what we discovered as we were going up it was basically you can't really go all the way up the whole trailhead up the center because there's some trees down and some stuff in the way. So basically we had to make the decision, you know, after we went partially up the center, you know, do you go to the left or to the right? And I ended up going to the right, so I went from Pebbles to Bamm Bamm, and he went to the left, which was Pebbles to Barney Rubble. But there's some footage of both of us doing, you know, Pebbles and Barney Rubble and stuff. And this portion right here that we're on is the Barney Rubble portion of it. But you'll see footage of both Jeeps doing it. So I did go out with Infidel Jeepers on this exact same trail. And I think I have footage of that I'll post at some point when I get caught up, because I have so many videos and so much footage that we did. And when we were with Infidel, we went up Barney Rubble on the left-hand side, and all the buggies were up on the right-hand side, which is where we will be doing Bamm Bamm. So if anybody from Infidel's watching this, they could they'll know like the perspective of where we were. So this right here is where you make the sharp left turn, and this puts you basically in the rocks for the trail. So one of the things that I really enjoy is the fact that there's only two Jeeps. A lot of times you see me in videos with like lots and lots of Jeeps, like going to events and stuff, and really, you know, I just prefer when there's just like one or two other people out with me and just a couple people over going out with like a million people, because it seems like, you know, when you have a million Jeeps with you, there's a million problems, and it just always seems like a lot more fun if there's just like, if it's a small kind of group. So this right here, this is where you can see where the trouble like usually begins, like with people doing this trail where the rocks are, obviously. The rest of the trail before this is relatively mild, and even stock vehicles could easily do the rest of the trail before this point. And like I'll get out and do some footage of him coming up the trail, so you'll be able to get a better estimate of how big these rocks are. They're actually pretty good sized rocks. So this trail leads into the M Trail, which is a black trail at AOAA. It's just a very wide rock garden. So up here is where the split is. The split is basically where the trees are. It just depends on which trees you end up going through. And this area is very, very wide. It's maybe like 40 feet wide. You can definitely, you know, have like a couple Jeeps going up the left side between a couple of those trees, and then somebody going through the center, and then somebody going on the right side all at the same time. It is so like wide, and this is where you can see I'm going to the far right when I'm coming up it, but then I think I end up making kind of like a left turn, trying to stay kind of in the center. So I think the center section here is what they refer to as Pebbles, and then the far right side is what people call Bamm Bamm. So at this point, basically, I get out of the vehicle to go and do some footage of him coming up the trail, so you'll be able to get a little bit more perspective other than just like this in-cab footage. So there he is with his Jeep and his wife. I believe he's on 35-inch tires, maybe he's on 37-inch tires. I can't remember honestly. I know the hood says Rubicon, and that's not a Rubicon, it's just a Rubicon hood. So, you know, that's a sport that's been upgraded, and he replaced the hood.
The trail's very wide. Just pick your obstacles, whatever you want to play on.
It also means that he doesn't have front lockers. I think that he had mentioned to me that he had rear lockers that he had added. but he doesn't have like the blockers all around like you do normally on Rubicons. So he's having to do just like a little bit of work, you know, if he gets somewhere where he thinks that he might need them or whatever.
You just need a little bit more. Like, I don't know if you can just back up a hair and then gun it just a little bit. Not like, yeah. You just need to maybe back it up maybe like right there and then just give it a little bit of gas, not a lot. Oh, you fell off the obstacle on the passenger side. Yep. Driver, and then just bounce it a little bit and it should go. Yep.
So right there, you're trying, you would be giving him some directions. So that usually in like jeeping terms, they use the term spotting, which means that you're kind of like watching the jeep from like a different perspective, like you're in front of it or behind it, and you're providing feedback to the driver. You're spotting him through the obstacle. And then at another point, you heard me giving him some directions, and I was saying like driver or passenger. Typically, when you spot somebody, the preference is typically to not say turn right or turn left, because it depends on where you're standing to what like left or right means. It may not be like the perspective of the driver when you say make a right turn. If you're facing him, your right is obviously his left, so that can get very, very confusing. So typically, when you're giving spotting advice, you just use the word driver or passengers and turn toward the driver or turn the passenger, so it's a little bit more clear which way you want the wheel to turn. So you can see here clearly, like the trail kind of ends on the right-hand side. I'm very much on the right-hand side of this trail right now, and I'm kind of going more to the right. So basically, this section here, I believe, would be Bamm Bamm, and the section kind of more to the center, I believe, would be what they consider Pebbles. I could have the names like backwards, I'm not really sure. So this trail that we're on right here basically connects to the M trail. So basically it's all kind of like almost the same trail. I'm not 100% sure why they gave the trail different names, because like the upper part where I'm getting to right now, literally if you make like a left turn you go down the hill, like that would be like the Barney Rubble combination of trails. If you make a right turn, that would be considered M or Thunder Alley, but it's all really the same set of rocks. It's just, you know, are the rocks like kind of going up the hill, or the rocks kind of the part going down the hill. So I don't really have too many major problems on this trail, which that's good, obviously. Mainly just the fact that I'm trying to do this, and you know, as you can see, because we're going up the hill, from the perspective of the driver, sometimes you can't actually see, you know, what your tires are hitting. So it's kind of like from memory, like you have to kind of look ahead 10 or 15 feet and see where obstacles are, and then try to get there. And you know, sometimes you stick your head out the side of the window to try to get the perspective. So at this point I actually stopped. There's like a beep in the background or whatever that I think that you can hear, and basically I threw a service code on the Jeep, and what it said was that when I looked it up was that I didn't have a tail light or something, and I went back there and like the bulb was loose, so I just like tightened the bulb, and then magically the service code went away. So unfortunately I don't have like the very end of the footage of this trail, but the trail does end like just, I don't know, like 30 feet ahead of me or 40 feet ahead of me. But I do have like most of this trail. But we do have more trails that we did in the same day that you're going to see. Most likely, I think I have footage from like the Pit, Barney Rubble, M, Whiskey Ridge, I think maybe Upper Anthracite, and some other trails. I'll see how good the footage is before I upload it, so we'll see what comes up next.
Let's park right here.